are totally screwed, guys! That's it. It's done. It's all over. Big Mom is hungry, and she is on a rampage, okay? And if there is one thing this manga has taught me, in 946 chapters spanning over 2 decades, was it all that crap about friendship and, you know, having people you love and going off into magical new lands and adventure? No, it wasn't. It was you do not mess with Big Mom when she is hangry. Activate Tekking101 emergency procedures. Ah! It's okay. I know we all built shelters for this. We're ready to go, okay? So I just want everybody to follow along with me now. Look underneath your chairs, your couches, wherever you're sitting right now, and I just want you to pull out your Big Mom emergency procedure packet and turn to page 3. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. All right, so, okay, we are way beyond threat level mint at this point. Cupcake, no. Jello, no. We are at least at threat level pie right now, okay? And unfortunately, once you get to pie, there's really no going back. We could go forward, though, to cake, and if that's the case, I just wanted to say I love you all. But don't worry, guys, we're gonna get through this somehow, okay? Huh. Okay, that's a little better. The red atmosphere lighting doesn't sit with me too well. This is a lot easier to see, okay? Alright, so this will be One Piece chapter 946 review titled Queen vs. Olin. Spoiler, it really isn't much of a fight. Alright, now I know there might have been a few people out there that were thinking to yourselves, like, well, you know, maybe Queen could stand up to Big Mom, you know, especially because she's in her weakened state right now. She doesn't have access to her homies. She doesn't even know she has a devil fruit power, really, so maybe. No, like, there are 2 amazing double pages to start off this chapter, which of course means the chapter overall is a little shorter, but it is made clear pretty early on by some awesome wrestling moves by Big Mom, or Olin, that, yeah, Queen really had no chance here, okay? So we get a cover page, though, that is pretty sweet. It's Kinemon going on a nice date with his wife, Suru, who, you know, he hasn't seen in a while. You know, it's been a little bit for him. It's been like 20 years for her, so it's good that they're getting reunited and they're just walking in the forest. It is actually kind of weird that we see this cover page, because the way that Kinemon spoke about his wife, you know, he knows where his wife is and everything, and he's glad that she's safe and that she made it through the 20 years of living hell that Wano became, but the whole thing was like, we'll wait until we, you know, finish off Kaido and we dethrone Orochi, and then I'll go back and find my wife, and then we'll live happily ever after. It is kind of weird that we're seeing like a sneak peek of this already in a cover page. Like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Unless, of course, this isn't what's going to happen in the series and something horrible might happen to one of them or both of them, and Oda's just giving us this now so we could see what could have been. So that's kind of a dark way to spin it, but there's a cute fox and a tanuki in it, so that's cool, right? Alright, so as I said, we kick off this chapter with some pretty damn cool wrestling moves, alright? So last chapter we had Queen transform into a brachiosaur, which looks cool, rather imposing, and if you're just like a regular human, I'm sure Queen could just like step on you and just end your existence right there. But the thing is, Big Mom is like the furthest thing from normal that you could pretty much just imagine. So the first thing she does is jump into the air and just deck that freaking dino, and his just entire neck just kind of like boom, and just slams into the ground, right? Now, not to be deterred by this, she immediately then proceeds to grab his neck and do like this like spin move around the entire prison. And keep in mind, Queen is the legitimate size of a brachiosaur right now. This thing is huge, all right? So the very act of her taking this thing's neck and just roar and just swinging it is just leveling the prison yard. Like, every structure that was standing is just getting destroyed, either when it's getting hit by freaking Queen or just the air pressure enough is knocking stuff over. Kid and Killer both get saved in the process. It knocks them free of their chains and they fall down, and the giant pot of water, you know, collapses and they get out of that. There is actually kind of a messed up scene, even more so though, because when Kamazo, or Killer, hits the ground, he's coughing because he was just, you know, submerged in water, but he's also still laughing. So it's just kind of like this really disturbing kind of like, you know, actually it makes me think of a worse fate for the people that have the negative side effects of the smiles beyond just not being able to express negative emotions. You know, because I don't know about you, but whenever I get a real gut buster of a laugh going, whenever I see something just so funny, I'm just laughing, I'm just doubled over. You know, if I keep laughing, either one of two things is going to happen. I'm gonna get the hiccups or I'm just gonna puke. Fun fact, that happened to me when I first watched the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That opening scene with Roger in the, you know, he was in that, that set of the cartoon with the baby and everything. I laughed so hard, I puked on my mom's carpet, and yeah, that was not a great moment for me, but it was a funny movie. But anyway, yeah, so imagine the fate of people that have the negative effects of the smiles. They're on the ground like that would be quite literally a living hell in my opinion. But anyway, they get freed, so that's all that matters. And then finally Big Mom just brings the brachio hammer down and just boom, and just slams him back into the ground. Queen does not get back up. Queen does not like break out a secret move or anything like that. Like, okay, Big Mom, you gave you yours, now let me show you mine. Nothing like that. The fight is over, and we're only 2 pages into the chapter, technically, if you count the double pages as each. Doesn't matter, all right? So, yeah, that went down. The rest of the chapter is pretty much everybody trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Okay, which is fair. Luffy's still in the arena looking on at this, and he's like, what is Big Mom doing here? What is going on? Now, remember, you know, Wano is isolated, so, like, Hyo has no idea who this woman is. From his perspective, Gojira just burst in and just started wrecking the place for as far as he knows. He's just like, who is that old woman? And Luffy's like, that's not some ordinary old woman. That's Big Mom. These would have worked a lot better if they were sunglasses, but, she's Big Mom. You know, alright, so, yeah, that's going on there. Now, remember, her original quest, the whole reason she was there, you know, she's here to eat Oshiruko and, bust some heads, and she's all done busting some heads. So, alright, she's looking for the Oshiruko now. So we have Queen just lying on the ground. He transforms back into his human form, while, you know, Big Mom's in the background like a... I stepped on the damn thumbtack for my giant straw hat. Dang it! Alright, well, whatever. Okay. Anyway, so Big Mom, she's like in the background like some kind of lizard or some kind of like a dinosaur out of Jurassic Park, if we're just going to continue to make the dino references. She's in the background like... Oshiruko! You know, she's like putting her nose up in the air trying to find it just by scent alone. Now, meanwhile, the guards are now beginning to rally around Baba Nuki, because Baba Nuki's like the head jailer here, you know, right after Queen, who is like the warden of the place. He would be the one in charge. So he's like, all right, well, what do we do? Do we fire cannons at her? Do we give her the Oshiruko? Do we make more? Like, do we just jump off the side of the Udon prison and try to escape? Like, what do we do here, Baba Nuki? And Baba Nuki's like, oh, hold on, we have to contact Kaido and let them know, because the Beast Pirates obviously know who Big Mom is and everything. I'm sure even Kaido might have put out a warning to his men that's like, yeah, the sea cow's gonna arrive at daybreak. Keep an eye out. You know, so, you know, they're probably aware that she was coming to begin with, right? They just expect her to just burst forth from the earth itself. So, Baba Nuki's like, contact Kaido. We need to figure out what to do directly from him, okay? Because this is a Yonko we're dealing with here. And keep in mind, all the people, they have no idea what's going on with Big Mom's head and her amnesia and all that crap. They have no idea, all right? So they might be thinking this is like part of her plan to attack the prison or something. They don't know. So they're like, okay, she's a Yonko. We need to contact a Yonko to figure out what's going on here. Problem is they can't contact anybody outside of the prison. So, yeah, this is the chapter where the prison break happens. Finally. Okay, they don't technically get out of the prison by the end of the chapter, but everything is going bananas. It's a prison break chapter, okay? So, Raizo is still in the picture, as well as Caribou. And you know what? Caribou, actually pretty useful, alright? Like, there's even a scene when Raizo's running through the guard tower and everything, and he's like, man, that Caribou guy was actually pretty resourceful. He gave me some useful information. So, whoop-de-dang-do. It turns out Caribou's useful for something. I'm just as shocked as you are. So yeah, Caribou, he wasn't just sitting in the prison the last few weeks or months or however long he's been in prison and just sitting there twiddling his thumbs. You know, he was actually trying to plan an escape, okay? He's a little bit smarter than we gave him credit for, right? He's trying to figure out, okay, how to shut down their communication systems. And we find a little bit more about how the communication in Wano works with those pond snails, those like cousins of the Den Mushi, okay? So we saw all of those little tiny pen snails, right? That just seemed way more compact, way easier to use than even like the baby Den Mushis. You know, they were on that stick. You can just put them in your pockets and just pull them out and just be like, breaker 910-4, we got ourselves a sleeping Snorlax that is rampaging in our domain, in our prison. Please advise. You know, like, there's nothing like more convenient than that, really, right? It's actually probably as convenient as our cell phones in our world. Just pull the thing out and just talk into it. There is a major downside of that, though, in that they have to communicate with like a boss pond snail. All right, so basically, think of it like think of it like you have like a cell phone tower, which is the main snail, like the adult snail, and that has the body of like a pagoda kind of style house, which is unique because it's Wano. And then all those smaller snails, like just called smails, that are on sticks, you speak into them, they relay your voice over to the boss snail, and then that boss snail will reroute the communicate to wherever else it needs to go, okay? So basically all you gotta do to shut down the communications in any given area is just take out the boss snail, either knock it out, or I guess you could kill it, although that would be, you don't want to hurt the snail. Or in Caribou's case, he's just like, I'm just going to absorb it into myself, into my swamp body, using my Logia powers, and it won't be able to communicate back and forth because it's in like this extra dimensional pocket mud dimension I'm creating, okay? So as long as you don't hurt the poor snail, okay? But yeah, so that's the downside of it, okay? It's like there has to be like a relay point. With regular Den Mushi, like if you use a baby Den Mushi, you can communicate with any other Den Mushi. It's just over a limited range. And a regular Den Mushi, there really doesn't seem to be any real drawbacks here because the Den Mushi have like this psychic network. So if you're on like an island in the East Blue, you can pick up a regular Den Mushi, and apparently you can communicate with an island anywhere else in the world. I mean, maybe, toll-free rates and stuff apply. I don't know. But, the point is that these things definitely have a drawback, right? Okay. So Caribou already took them out. He took out the snail, so now nobody can communicate outside of Udon. Oh, by the way, it was also explained that whole snail setup, it's basically they have one boss snail per village, and then everybody just has the smaller ones. Okay, so keep that in mind. That might be actually a really important thing when we get closer to the raid on Onigashima during the Fire Festival. Maybe wipe out all of the boss snails in the Flower Capital and the surrounding villages, and that might actually really help cut down on communications, okay? So that might be a target. Pay attention to that, okay? So they cannot communicate outside of Udon, they can't get in touch with Kaido, and Raizo has infiltrated the guard tower to try to get the keys and get everybody out of there, right? Now, at the same time, I forgot to mention this earlier, but when Big Mom was tossing the Brachio Queen around, launched him directly into Kawamatsu's cell, and it's like the cell that's always locked, or the cell that should never be open, has been opened, and some of the guards are actually confused at what was even in there to begin with. Some of the guards are just like, what was in there? I don't even know. So that just means that Kawamatsu, he's been in there for like 13 years. They've probably never opened the cell a single time, and he's just been hiding in the shadows of the place the entire time he was in there. So some of the newer guards probably don't even know what the hell the story is with that place. But anyway, his jail cell just gets wiped open because I think it was stated like he's been in there for so long, like the lock itself has like rusted shut. So even if you had the key to it, the lock was such in a state of disrepair you wouldn't even be able to open the prison doors. But hey, that solves that problem right there, throwing a Brachiosaur into it, alright? So, if you don't have a key, try that. Next time you're playing an RPG or something and you're going around, you can't get into a door, it's locked, it's like, the door has rusted shut. I'm like, that gives you an option. He's like, try to break down the door, try to find a key, throw a giant dinosaur into the door. If that option is available, I would definitely take it, okay? So, it seems like the escape is going well. They cut off communications, and Raizo's getting the keys. There are still some issue. A Killer and Eustace Kid got freed. That's awesome. Still a few issues. Probably the most major one is Luffy and Hyo. They are still in Sumo Inferno, which unfortunately has to be postponed until a later date. I hope they can finish it up at some point before the end of the arc. And of course, they still got the collars on, which were rigged to, you know, jet out these spikes if they step outside of the arena. And then you have Big Mom, which is just an unpredictable factor in all this, okay? So Big Mom finally, like, finds the giant pot of Oshiruko, or at least the giant pot that used to contain the Oshiruko. She's like, oh, found it! And she grabs it, and she's like, she hasn't opened it yet, but she's like smelling the aroma of it, and she's like, ah, oh, such a fragrant smell, so delicious. And I mean, listen to me, okay? This is real. This is real right here, okay? Have you ever been in a situation where you've had just a really long day? Maybe you've been at school, maybe you've been at work, and the only thing you can think about is what you're going to eat when you get home or you get off work or whatever. I've had that before. I worked in retail for 7 years. You know, it wasn't a bad job, but some days, man, some days you go to work and you're under the weather, or you're just exhausted, or you just have to deal with stupid people for 7 hours straight, and it's just like, oh, I want to get out of here. I'm going to go and I'm going to get me, what am I going to eat? I'm going to get some pizza. It doesn't even have to be an extravagant meal. It's just you get that mental picture in your head, you know? It's just like, I'm going to go to freaking, you know, McDonald's and get me a Big Mac. Not the most amazing meal in the world, but it's a Big Mac. And you're just thinking about all that, the fries. And I like the signature sauce when I go to McDonald's. And I'm just like, oh, man, that's gonna taste so good after the day I've had. It's just beautiful. And then imagine you go to McDonald's and it's like, yeah, sorry, we're just out of food. And you have a moment there where you're crying on the inside. Yeah, that's what Big Mom experiences now. Look at this! Look at her! You know what? All the stuff she's done up until this point, I can sympathize with you, Big Mom. We've all been there, you know? We've all had that moment, right? You know, and it's like, what are you gonna do? So, yeah, she looks inside the pot, and she's quiet, like the rampage has ceased, but it's like the eye of the hurricane. So, everybody just, when she opens the pot, like, uniformly, like, you couldn't have rehearsed this better enough. Every single guard in the prison is like, evacuate! I don't care, you know, grow wings and fly, you know, do whatever you gotta do. And so, Luffy, we love you, Luffy. Luffy, buddy. Oh. Okay, so going again to another hypothetical. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you really, like, somebody tells you to don't do this, don't say this, no matter what you do not utter these words, and you're like, yes, okay, fine, I won't, jeez. And then you go there and you're seriously not trying to say it, it just comes out. Luffy, you're just an adorable little fella, aren't you? Okay, so Luffy, upon seeing Big Mom open up the vat and there's no Oshiruko in there and everyone's running for their lives, Luffy's just like, ah, yeah, Oshiruko is pretty delicious, huh? I wish I had some more to eat. Okay, so this is hilarious because Big Mom, I guess, despite how, like, everybody's running away and screaming for evacuation and there's, like, emergency sirens, like, blaring in the background, Big Mom could hear that, and she's like, and she just turns to Luffy like, what did you say? And she's like, wait a second, did I say that out loud? Luffy looks over to Hyo and is like, wait, did I say that out loud? And Hyo's like, yes, you did! What's wrong with you? It's like, oh, crap, I didn't mean to do that! You know, so, you know, Luffy is the guy, and I have that too. A lot of times when I'm thinking of stuff, I have to say it. I can't just keep my thoughts to myself, okay? So usually I'm just the weird guy in the corner of the room mumbling to himself. But, you know, in this case, Luffy, you kind of screwed the pooch on this one, right? Because Big Mom just starts charging at the arena, and she starts bashing the crap out of it, destroying the arena in the process. Luffy and Hyo have to keep backing up because, you know, the sumo arena, it's a circle, and, you know, he's backing up, and the closer he's getting to the edge, the collar starts beeping, you know, warning, hey, you're almost at the perimeter there. So that's one thing of note to bring up, and this is going to play a role at the end of the chapter. The collars that they're wearing, it doesn't seem to be like an immediate trigger as soon as you step out the arena, it's just like shing. No, there does seem to be like a warning thing on the collar itself where it will beep a little bit to let you know you're near the perimeter. And I'm assuming if it starts beep, it's kind of like in Gantz when they put the little microchips in their heads and stuff when they're exiting the perimeter of the game, it starts to beep, and if you don't back up, bad stuff happens. It goes all scanners on you. So it's something like that where, you know, Luffy's getting close to the side of the arena and it's like beep, 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 beep. Luffy's like, hey, calm down. This thing is beeping here. I don't know. And so Big Mom, though, reveals the reason why she's so PO'd here. It's not just because Luffy ate her Oshiruko. She says she's mad because she was going to bring the Oshiruko back to everybody in the village. Because the people at the village in Okobore Town, they were so nice to Big Mom or Olin. They styled her hair for her, and they gave her what little food they did have left. And you know, she was like, I'm going to go and get them food, and I'm going to have some for myself, of course, and I'll share it with Tama, but then I'll bring it back to the village. And so that's why she's mad. And so Luffy's like, wait a second, what? Kindness? What is this crap? And also, Luffy calls her Big Mom, and that doesn't also reactivate her memories or anything. It's just like, who's this Big Mom person? You ate my food. So she's still mad over food, but she's not like hunger paying mad crazy, and it's not a selfish desire. It's an unselfish desire, I guess. I'm just gonna go, okay. So, yeah, really, Big Mom, and we've seen this, she's basically mentally regressed to the time when she was like 5 or 6 years old, and we saw back in her younger years, I mean, she was not, you know, she wasn't doing it the right way, you know, like when the bear and the wolf were fighting on Elbaf, and she was like, you know, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Bear are mean to each other, I'm gonna teach them a lesson. So she doesn't know her own strength, and her heart is in the right place. It's this that it usually leads to mass devastation in the wake of her good deeds, right? And so the same deal here. So she probably views Luffy as like the bad man that stole all of her food and, you know, ruined the dinners for everybody in Oshiruko Town. I mean, not Oshiruko Town, Okobore Town stole their Oshiruko, so Luffy ruined it. Which, I mean, Luffy, if we're being honest here, you are kind of at to blame here. I mean, I'm just saying, Luffy, I mean, if the Oshiruko pot was still filled, I mean, she would have burst in. She still would have wrecked Queen, because Queen would have guarded his food. Big Mom still would have destroyed Queen, except she would have gotten her hands on the Oshiruko and everything would have been copacetic. You know, and then after that, she would have been sitting there happily eating, and you probably could have just yelled over to Chopper or Kiku or even Big Mom herself at that point and been like, hey, yeah, thanks for saving me. And, you know, Big Mom would just be like, oh, you're welcome. You know, was that man mean to you? I'm like, oh, yeah, he was really mean to everybody here. Hey, do me a favor. Could you come over here and help out my friend? You know, like, Luffy, I'm just saying it is kind of his fault, you know? So anyway, she continues to wreck the stage, and she's like, I wanted to share it with everybody, and just BAM! And just obliterates the freaking arena, and Luffy and Hyo get sent skyward, okay? Now, I was thinking about, okay, maybe a way they could escape the collars is if the arena gets destroyed. There's something in the arena around the perimeter that's sending out a signal that's being received by the collars. I think that most people could probably arrive to that conclusion, all right? So, maybe if you destroy the arena, the receiver will be destroyed as well, and if that happens, maybe the collars will just deactivate on their own, or at the very least, maybe the collars would still remain on them, but they wouldn't activate. They wouldn't activate the spikes, okay? So they could still escape even with the collars on, right? That doesn't seem to be the case. No, after the arena gets destroyed, Luffy and Hyo get flung into the air, and Luffy kind of grabs Hyo and just pulls him close, and the collars start beeping much more frequently now, like beep, 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 and Luffy's just like, oh, okay, screw this, and he Armament Hakis up his hands, and he grabs the collar and he just rips them off, both of his, like both of, you know, their collars, Hyo's and his, and just, whoa! And then they both trigger at the same time, which they explode, not shoot out spikes. They actually explode in the air. Which I'm assuming it's just because Luffy probably grabbed them and bent them in such a way when the spikes came out, they might as well have they just exploded, right? That's the reason that happened. So anyway, yeah. Now, this will harken back to a moment that happened back at Sabaody, which I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about right about now. The time Rayleigh saved Kami from her collar at the auction house, okay? So Kami had this collar on. Same basic deal as this. You try to remove the collar, it'll activate it. Even beeped in the anime the same way it did here, basically. And Rayleigh, what he did is he walked up to the collar. Normally, the only way to get the collar off is with a key, but Rayleigh was just kind of looking at the collar and just like, okay, stay still, young lady, I got this, and then just very super, you know, quickly just shing, and then just, you know, flung the collar off and just boom, it exploded right behind him and Kami was fine, all right? Kind of the same thing Luffy's doing here, just a little bit, you know, less elegant. You know, he didn't do it as calmly as Rayleigh did. Luffy's was more of kind of a sense of desperation, like, oh, where the blue wire? Do I cut the green wire? Oh, screw this, and he just rips it off, okay? And so, Hyo, though, you know, he lands, and they get back on the ground there, and Hyo's just like, whoa, that was just now, that's crazy. So, we can assume that this is the new advanced form of Armament Haki, okay? And it also kind of explains a little bit better what Rayleigh did back then at Sabaody. Now, I guess you could also say observation plays a really big role in this too. You know, the observation, being able to like sense the nature of the bomb collar and figuring out exactly how you're supposed to remove it and everything like that. Observation would probably play a role, but maybe also it's like just armament because it's like, you know, you're sensing the energy, I guess, because it's like flowing Sakura. That's like the literal translation of the Haki in Wano, right? The flowing Sakura. So maybe it's just like Luffy sensed that, and in this time of desperation, he actually managed to pull it off, and he did the same thing Rayleigh did, where it's just maybe there was like a brief moment, like in between the beeps, or just like he only had a second or two to work with, but in that he could sense it in that time, and he just like, you know, grabbed it and ripped it just the right way, and he threw it. Like there's like many ways this could have went wrong, but he did it in just the right way. That kind of deal, right? So, after Luffy lands, they try to run again, although Big Mom is hot on their heels. Luffy grabs Hyo, and he's like, we gotta get going. We gotta run out of here now that we got the collars off, because Luffy doesn't really stop to think about what he just did. Luffy's just like, awesome, I got him off. Great, let's go. And Hyo, though, he realizes the potential in Luffy. I think this is the moment right here where he sees, like, holy crap, that was a rather advanced thing that Luffy just managed to pull off. You think of it this way. Hyo is a master of this type of Haki, this flowing Sakura, you know, technique, this armament, and he didn't do that. He didn't even try to rip off his own collar. You'd think that if he knew how this worked, he would attempt it, but he didn't. And, or if he wasn't good enough or whatever, maybe he saw this really advanced technique in Luffy that even he couldn't even do. And so he's like, this kid has definitely got promise. And so he does the logical thing that any, you know, trainer, any good sensei would do at this moment, right? He stands his ground in front of a giant pink-haired Snorlax as Luffy's trying to run away. And he's like, wait, what are you doing? We gotta go. And Hyo's just like, no. I'm gonna stand right here. And then Luffy's like, so what? You want us to fight her? I'm like, well, I want you to fight her. It's like, what? But if I mess up even a little bit, you're gonna die. And Hyo's like, well, that's just how it has to be then. I'm prepared. And so Luffy's like, okay, let's do this, Big Mom. And so he strikes an epic, like, sumo pose, and he armaments up his hands again, and then he's ready to go. And that's where the chapter ends. So, dang, you know, like, I don't know where this is gonna go at this point. Actually, I do. At least I see where Oda's going with this, I would assume. Okay, so I think what Oda's trying to go with here is like, all right, I'm gonna have Luffy to train to fight against a Yonko by dealing with a weakened Yonko. All right, because Big Mom, a few handicaps with Big Mom here. She doesn't remember, you know, who Luffy is or even who she is, okay, so you can take away the rage out of that. She doesn't have access to her homies like Prometheus and Zeus, and Napoleon is still dormant. It doesn't seem like she remembers to do Haki because she doesn't seem to have her arms, you know, like doing the vulcanization or anything like that, so she can't use Haki. She also doesn't know about her soul powers, so you can just get that out of the way now. Like, there's not going to be any, like, soul pocus trickery or anything like that. So it's really just this huge iron balloon of a woman that's just, with her sheer physical might, just breaking the crap out of the surrounding area. So with just that being the... Also, by the way, that she's a lot kinder in this form as well. I mean, she's... Like with the bear and the wolf on Elbaf and with Queen, you know, she was giving them a smackdown, but I don't think anybody there is actually dead yet from that. You know, like Queen, like, she wasn't, like, pummeling Queen to, like, the point where he's just, like, a bloody puddle on the ground or anything like that. So... that's also a consideration as well. By the way, keep in mind also, Luffy still doesn't know that she has amnesia either. I'm sure Luffy might be able to think of like, okay, she's not acting the same way she did at Totland, but he doesn't know the whole story, right? Chopper and Kiku are still there running around. We see them very briefly in this chapter, but we don't really see what they're going to end up doing. I'm assuming they're going to meet back up with Raizo and Caribou at some point, yeah. So how's this really going to go? Well, I think Luffy at this point, with his training he's had in the, well, not only from his training from, like, you know, fighting Katakuri and learning more about observation, but also the training in the Udon Prism and learning learning a little bit more about armament, okay? I think Luffy will be able to at least, you know, deal with a few just regular non-Haki just blows from Big Mom. I think that's fair, okay? Do you think that's fair? I think that's fair. Now, once again, if Big Mom was, like, back to her full power, this wouldn't work. But I think in this situation it might, where Luffy might, like she goes to punch him, and you could have a scene where Luffy, like, blocks the punch or redirects it or something, and Luffy could be like, ah, man, that punch wasn't even Haki and it hurt. Like, damn! But he did manage to block it, you know, and meanwhile, Big Mom the entire time might not be hurt at all. Like, even if Luffy somehow managed to, like, you know, pull all of his strength and, like, maybe knock Big Mom over, kind of the same thing that Jinbei did with his, like, vagabond drill. Like, even if Luffy managed to do that, like, knock Big Mom over, she still is not going to get hurt by that, but it'll at least be a good training thing. For, you know, like, basically it's just, like, Big Mom is going to be, like, his sparring partner on how to learn how to use this advanced armament Haki, okay? So he's, like, using it, trying to strike her, and then she's getting knocked back, and it's not really hurting her, but she keeps coming back at Luffy, and it gets him more opportunities, right? Because everybody in the Sumo Inferno one shot by Luffy, and they were down. So here, at least, like, the enemy will keep coming back. And eventually she might regain her senses, not regain her memories, but regain her senses or something. Maybe they might find more Oshiruko somewhere or something. Some like Queen's like secret stash or something in the prison, and that might abate her hunger, while Luffy did get some training in, and Big Mom didn't really get hurt in the process, so she really doesn't care, right? Also, one thing that Hio brings up that's really important, the reason he's doing this now, is he's like, I'm seeing potential in Luffy. And he managed to just pull off this technique. So while it's fresh in his mind, while he knows what he just did, or he knows the sensation of what he just did, we need to train now. We need to do this now if he actually wants to master this. And he's like, once your back is up against a wall, that's when you can truly evolve to, like, your next level, okay? So it makes sense, you know, putting under stress. And so Luffy, of course, knows all about Big Mom, and he's like, okay, well, I kind of wanted to do this back in Totland, but I get a second chance now. I never thought it would happen here, but we got it, okay? So yeah, I think that's how it's going to go next chapter. No break next week, so that's good. Luffy is going to maybe block a few of her attacks or her punches, maybe manage to knock her over, or at least knock her back a little bit, and the entire time he's doing this, he's learning a little bit more about the Armament Haki each time, right? Until he kind of gets the feeling of it down at least, and then something's going to happen to interrupt Big Mom. It could be Queen, because we do get to see one more scene of Queen in this chapter. He's still on the ground. He hasn't gotten back up yet, but Queen was on the ground, and he heard Luffy when Luffy said he ate all the Oshiruko. So now Queen's also mad at him. So it might be a situation where maybe Queen gets back up and distracts Big Mom long enough for Luffy and Hio to get the hell out of there, meet back up with Raizo, go to the other prison camps, you know, free all the other members of the Yakuza. It might be some deal like that. Queen might be able, just if he gets in his maybe rage or something, he might be able to hold her off for a while. I'm not really sure, okay? But definitely there's going to be like a sparring match between Luffy and Big Mom next chapter, which should be rather amusing to watch, alright? Well, anyway, and this, of course, will help Luffy get stronger. So anyway, this was an awesome chapter. This is what I was waiting for a while. Just Big Mom's just epic rampage in the prison. We got it. Oda definitely delivered on it. And just getting to see Queen just getting, like, you know, flying, spinny suplex. I don't know. I don't watch wrestling. Just into the air and just bam on the ground. That was worth it for me right there. So, it's awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Grab your defense whisks. I feel like you're going to need them for next week. Later, everybody.